Hello.
Hey, remind me, is this podcast deep opinions on shallow topics or shallow opinions on deep topics?
It's everything. It's Deeply Shallow with Matt and Tara. Whether you feel deep, shallow, or just plain petty,
take a ride through life with us. Matt and Tara, we chronicle it all.
Tell me the whole story, start from the beginning. What were you wearing?
Whether we are tackling aging, friendships, our spouses,
Hubba and Banana are the two luckiest people on earth.
or any other of life's fun, we have different takes, but one goal. Get ready to laugh, shake your head, and wonder where our mothers went wrong.
I'm a 30-year-old woman, and I am still terrified of my mother.
Get in and hold on.
It's Deeply Shallow with Matt and Tara, and listener discretion definitely advised. Hey, welcome to Deeply Shallow with Matt and Tara. Thank you guys so much for being here. Whether you're feeling deep or you're feeling shallow, you have come to the right place.
Yes.
I am your host, Tara, along always with my co-host. He loves it when you call him Big Papa, Mr. Matt Hanley.
Hello.
What's going on, Matt?
Tara, as always, we like to start the show with our mental health number.
A little checkup.
Yes, a little checkup. We always like to be aware of our mental game. So on a scale of 0 to 10, Tara, where are you today?
I'm a little bit lower today.
Uh-oh.
I'm 6-ish.
6-ish? Okay.
6-ish. And the reason I'm a little bit lower is because, for those of you who don't know, Hubba, my significant other, is a fourth-year medical student, which is really just a fancy way of saying unemployed.
Ouch.
And he is gone on what in the med school biz they call away rotations, which means he is out of town for 2 months.
And not just out of town. Where is he? Where's his first stop?
Sure. So his first stop is Augusta, Georgia.
Home of the Masters.
Home of the Masters.
This man loves golf.
He does. He does love golf. I'm sure that was purely coincidental.
And you said that earlier that you were not, you did not see the golf clubs around the apartment. So
I do
you think
not
they
know the
also
current location of the golf clubs.
clubs.
But he assures me he's going to be extremely busy.
Of course he is.
While he's there. And then the next month he's going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. And it's going to be a little difficult to kind of handle everything on my own. I'm not really looking forward to being in essence, a single parent for the next 2 months, especially when our daughter, B, has been described in certain circles as strong-willed. I think that's a fair description.
Yes, it's fair.
So I fully expect for her to give me a run for my money. And to compound him being out of town, our babysitter, who I have had all geared up, to help me the next 2 months, broke her foot last night.
Oh.
So non-weight bearing on this foot for at least 6 weeks. Who knows how long after that. So the backup I did have is no longer available for a backup.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's been a morning. This has all happened in the past 24 hours.
Yes.
So it's been a morning, but here we are.
Yeah.
And I love recording days. So I'm hoping to get that mental health number back up before the end of the recording. Where are you at, Matt?
Well, I too am struggling a little bit. Just got back from vacation, and I will tell you, the older I get, the more jet lag kicks my butt. So I am struggling. I'm probably a 7.2 today. I too am hoping to get to a 10. So let's just get right into it.
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Since Hubba just left town, I think this is so appropriate that today's episode is share a last name, not a bathroom. That's right, folks. We're talking marriage.
We're talking marriage and committed relationships.
Marriage and committed relationships, and your husband has no way to defend himself.
Exactly. He is out of the state.
He is hours and hours away.
It's funny, when I first told him that we were doing this podcast, which I actually told him that we were doing this after we had already recorded our first episode. And I just kind of wanted to check in with him and see, hey, is there anything you don't want me to talk about on this podcast? Because he knows as do most people who know me, that I pretty much say what I think
Yes.
at all times.
Yes.
That has got me in trouble a time or two, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And, he kind of thought for a second and he said, well, I know you're pretty much going to say whatever you want, but let's keep the sex talk under control.
Ah.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. What about you? Is there anything the banana wanted under wraps?
The banana also requested that the sex convo be kept to a minimum.
I think my mom and dad would also really appreciate that. So while we are going to talk about marriage and relationships today, we're not going to touch so much on sex.
We're going to go light on sex.
Yes.
We're going to go light on sex.
Which is going light on sex, probably not the best route to go into your marriage.
Correct.
But for the sake of this podcast,
yes,
we're going to take it in that.
Yeah, we're not dismissing the topic as a whole.
Sure.
It certainly is important in a relationship. We're just not going to go into details, but we do feel like it's an important part.
Absolutely.
But we've got plenty of other things to discuss, tips and whatnot.
Speaking of which, the title of our show.
Yes.
Say it for me again, Matt Hanley.
The name of our show is Sherry Last Name, Not a Bathroom.
That's right. Share a last name, not a bathroom.
Yep.
Both of us are in marriages where we do not share a bathroom with our spouse.
That is correct.
In fact, when the banana moved in with you, you had to have bathroom construction.
That was part of the deal. Like when we decided to move in, that was a non-negotiable. There are 2 bathrooms in the current residence, but one of them I was just using as like a storage, kind of deal. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to need my own bathroom. And so for the first 30 or 45 days that we were living together, we were all using the same bathroom. Guest, the boys, the banana, and I were all using the same bathroom. And it was a rough go.
Sure. I think the only time in our marriage that we have also shared a bathroom was the beginning. I mean, year 1. And we are 2 people who quickly learn from our mistakes. We actually moved to Syracuse, New York 4 days after we got married. And so I am fairly certain we had about $82 in our bank account when we got married. We got married very young. And so being broke, we lived in a very small space in New York and it had 1 bathroom. And we learned very quickly that was not going to work for us.
Yeah.
We are not 1 bathroom people.
Yeah. There's just certain things. Yeah.
Right.
So in our living arrangement, the banana has her own bathroom that only she uses. Now, a lot of times you would go, oh, that's her bathroom and the guest bathroom. No, that is her bathroom. The guest, myself, the boys, we all use the other bathroom.
In fact, guests have to pass her
bathroom to get to the other
bathroom. I respect that.
And it is so funny because this is just how she is. So, obviously she owns the gymnastics facility and she does not even have a private office at the facility, but she does have a private bathroom there.
Right. I have worked for this woman for 10 years and I have seen the inside of this private bathroom 1 time. And it was recently.
What do you feel like is the benefit of the separate bathroom arrangement?
Sure. So I think it is just an easy way to avoid fighting, to avoid tensions.
Correct.
The bathroom is a sacred space.
Yes.
And having to share that with another adult is just not necessary.
Right.
It's just not necessary.
Yeah.
And so we each have our own individual bathrooms. He doesn't talk about what goes in mine. I don't talk about what goes on in his. We keep it separate.
Yes. 60 years ago, when homes were built and apartments were constructed, most probably had 1 bathroom for the whole house. But in today's times, I mean, most apartments have 2 bathrooms. Most houses have 2 bathrooms. So, there's really no reason to not, and I agree with you fully, removing the tension, removing the potential fights, because mixing 2 people's hygiene habits and cleanliness habits and all of those things into one can make for trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Hubba is very particular. He doesn't like any clutter in any of his space. And it takes a village to get me ready in the morning. Okay. I'm talking lotions and serums and straighteners and dryers and curlers and all kinds of makeup products. He doesn't want to see any of it. He doesn't want it on the counter. I'm a grown woman. I don't want someone telling me I can't have my stuff on the counter in an apartment I pay for. So it's just an easy way to make your life, make your marriage a little bit easier. We're all about sharing the same last name after a while.
Yes. How long, Tara, did it actually take you to assume your last name, your married last name?
5.5 years. I mean, really, when I became pregnant and almost due is when I decided to change my last name.
So if you hadn't changed your last name, would your daughter's name be different?
Yes.
Really?
She and Hubba would share the same
last name.
I would not.
Oh, I see.
Which is why I went and changed my name, because I did not want to have a different last name
That makes
than
sense. Yeah.
my daughter.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I would introduce myself, you
Yeah.
know, oh, hi, I'm, Tara with, my married last name, but I just did not want to go wait in that line.
The DMV sucks.
We should be able to just like pop in, hey, this is my new last name, write it on a piece of paper.
Be done.
The hoops you have to jump through to change your last name is ridiculous.
No, I agree.
All right. But other than not sharing a bathroom, let's dive in a little bit more to marriage and committed relationships.
Okay.
We have similar roles in our marriages, but they look very different from the outside in as far as Hubba and I met early in life.
Yeah. Right.
You and the banana met later in life.
Yeah.
You guys would be what would be considered newlyweds.
Yes.
Still.
Yeah. We've only been married a couple of years. Yeah.
And Hubba and I have been married 7.5 years.
Yeah, this is interesting because this is one of the fewer topics that we actually are reversed on as far as like, we've talked about our age difference, that I'm 10 years old than you are, but this is one of the spaces where you have more tenure on the matter than I do.
I do. Which, you know what, let me ask you this. What would you say is a good description of my marriage? And I feel comfortable asking you that because I feel like we know each other very well.
Yes.
And also we know each other's spouses very well.
Yes. Yes. So if I had to describe, I'd probably talk about two things. One is, Tara, I don't know how an easy way to put this to you, but you're a ball buster.
It has been said. I'll allow it.
And while Hubba has deserved, such behavior, has warranted ball busting, I do also think you find some level of sport in it. You really excel.
All I'm going to say is I run a tight ship and I enjoy winning.
Right. Yes. It's almost a hobby at some level.
I'm sure he would agree with you.
Yes. But then what I will say is I really do feel like that you are married to the perfect person. Now, I am not saying Hubba is perfect, so don't come across the table at me just yet.
I was about to say.
But I do think that his personality lines up so well with yours because literally you could set his pants on fire that he is currently wearing and would really not panic and really
he would just take them off.
Yeah, he's not the person that is super emotionally charged or really tends to hold a grudge or like have
God.
Yeah, he's the old saying, roll off, which it rolls off a duck's back or whatever. That's Hubba. He doesn't get
not easily excitable.
Right. But also not easily offended.
Right.
Or
also, thank God.
Yeah. So those are the two things that to me describe your marriage is you being a ball buster married to the perfect personality that allows the ball busting with minimal blowback.
Sure. I think that's a fair description. I accept those terms of that description.
With some fear and trepidation, how would you describe my marriage?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is if at first you don't succeed, try again. And I mean that with love. And just to point out that this is y'all's second marriage,
that is
both
correct. Yes.
you and Banana.
Yeah, that's right.
Round two. Round two of effectively betting the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with will not take half your stuff. Much like your experience the first go round.
Wow. Touche.
But that being said, no, I think that how you said that Hubba's the perfect person to handle me, I think you are absolutely the perfect person to handle the banana. I remember actually when you and I were first meeting, getting to know each other.
Yeah, it's important to point out that had I never met the banana, we would not have this relationship.
Absolutely.
Or probably not, because we met through her.
Yes.
Y'all have been friends for years, and you worked for, all of that stuff. So
right. So I know her very well.
Yes, you do.
And I remember you were calling me for guidance one day, asking me, how to handle a certain situation. I don't even remember what the situation is, or I would share it. And I just pretty much told you, listen, if you're calling me looking for a rational explanation of events, I can't help you here. The person that you are choosing is crazy. She is a crazy banana. Make peace with that or keep it moving was pretty much my advice.
And so that is how the banana name became into existence.
Yeah. And I mean, this is something that she has embraced.
Absolutely.
My daughter calls her Aunt Banana. I mean, she is the banana.
Yes. She buys banana swim trunks. She has bought a banana swim hat.
Right.
She is she's fully embraced.
She loves it.
Yes.
She's the banana. She's the crazy banana.
Yes.
So yes, I think that we both have been lucky to find partners who our personalities mesh well together.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree. I think it's important to to note as we go through this that marriage is not easy.
No.
And I think that it's especially important, like in this day and age, for everybody who is considering marriage, who is engaged, who is newly married, who's been married for a long time, that marriage is like a good marriage is work.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to really put into it, and but what's so funny about it is that now with the creation of memes and all this stuff, that now we have like this humor to go along with some of these things that drive us crazy about our spouses.
Absolutely.
Because our spouses have no idea what we respectively do for them. And I mean, what I do for Hubba, what you do for the banana, because we vent to each other and it saves them from a lot of tongue lashings. We do not adhere to this meme that my attorney friend sent me. He sent me this meme that said, dance like no one is watching, but text and email like it will be read in court one day. That would not be us. We are in trouble because we will, what did you say? What was your term?
Rage text.
We will rage text about our spouses on the regular.
We go scorched earth on them.
Scorched earth.
At times.
But the beauty of it is because we have that relationship and that we know each other's spouses, that we know that once we vent and we kind of get that out of our system, then they don't have to take the tongue lashing when we get home.
When I first got married, I saw this, speaking of memes, I saw this meme that said, don't talk bad about your husband to anyone ever. Like there was a bunch of periods in the meme. It's like, don't talk bad about your husband, period. To anyone, period. Ever, period. That is the worst advice. That's terrible advice. Because if you do not have someone to vent to about the shenanigans that these assholes pull from time to time, those are the people that's on those ID shows, Snapped. Those are those people. They've never said one bad word about their spouse before. It's so unhealthy.
But it is, and you're exactly right. And that's what makes this so good, is because sometimes you just got to get it off your chest.
Yes.
You've just got to let it be said, and then you'll never speak of it again. And that is the role that we serve for each other. And our spouses really they just have no idea of what we do for them. But some of my other favorite memes that describe my marriage, there was one that I saw that said, marriage is seeing who can push the trash down further without taking it out. Now, the banana will push the trash down until literally when I go to take it out of the can, normally it is so heavy that the top of the trash can is ripping. I mean, the top of the trash bag is ripping. That's how heavy it is. I mean, it's like one of her suitcases. Like what's the other day when we were at the airport, 49.5 pounds, 50-pound limit on her suitcase. She was at 49.5 pounds.
It was her proudest moment.
The proudest moment. Yes. Anyway, back to this. And another one that I love is marriage is just yelling what from the other room until one of us dies.
So real.
So real.
It doesn't matter how big of a house you have or how small of a house you have. You will just start to tune out that other person.
Yeah.
So you never hear anything they're saying.
Yeah.
But you know what? Speaking of hate texting people, I really feel that memes have given me an outlet to tell Hubba something without hate texting him.
Communicate.
So the other day I sent him this meme that says, sometimes I think my husband isn't actually pooping. He's just waiting for the kids to grow up and move out. What is taking you so long in there? I sent him that meme while he was in the bathroom. And that was my nice way of saying, get your ass out of that bathroom before I break down the door.
Okay, not to get too deep, but how long was he in there when you sent this message? How long was he in there?
Okay, it should not take him longer in the bathroom than it took me to give birth to his child. Get out of there. Get out and leave your phone out here when you're going to the bathroom. When we are cleaning our house or something, or it's time to be a bath or do some mundane chore that I know we both don't want to do. And he's like, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm like, give me your phone. You're not taking that phone in there. And of course he doesn't listen and he goes and does his business and takes 5 hours. But I hate it.
Speaking of cleaning, because I think this is funny because we've discussed many times the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So when you look at parents, marriage, and kind of some similarities, let me tell you just a quick story because when I thought I was being helpful when the banana and I first got together, like I always made the bed. Mm-hmm. Okay. To which she remade it after I made the bed.
Absolutely.
Because she's so particular. And this is another thing that I think that we'll touch on is some things you just have to not do anymore and let your significant other, your spouse do, because it means more to them. It's more important to them.
Right.
But let me just say this quick story about my in-laws. Okay. So
I love in-law stories.
In-laws are so great. So the banana cleans the house before the cleaners come.
Of course.
She's very particular about where things go and all that. And I let it go. So I heard a story about her mom and dad, who I love to death. And you know them very well. And so her dad made the bed one time, like the second day they were married or something like that. Her mom comes in, takes the comforter off of the bed and throws it in the trash can. Just to let him know, you're not making the bed.
Why throw away the comforter?
Because she's crazy, just like her daughter.
Okay, fair. Wow, that is like really trying to get your point across. That's hate texting the old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned way.
The old-fashioned hate text is to rip the comforter off the bed
and throw it away. And that's a true story. That is not an exaggeration. That's a true story.
Wow, that's intense.
Yes.
Okay, but, getting back to kind of the differences between our marriages,
mm-hmm.
Hubba and I met when he was 19 and I was 20.
Wow.
And we had a pretty, I guess, what you would call traditional, and I'm using air quotes.
You're such a cougar.
I know, rare. So we dated for 2.5 years, and then we had a shotgun engagement. Because...
Okay, yeah, for clarification.
Right. Not because there was a child on the way, but because we wanted to live together.
Right.
And Papa K, Mama K, my parents, that was a no-go, not going to happen type of situation. So we were like, you know what? We're in love. We're committed. Let's get married. And let's get married really quickly so that all of our friends who are graduating from college can, be around and attend. So that's what we decided to do. We had a 6-week engagement and we got married. So I was 22 and he was 21, just turned 21 when we got married.
Okay.
And looking back now, I'm thinking, okay, we are children. We have $82 in our bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Why are all of these adults standing around letting us get married? What were they thinking?
Well, it is interesting because I think, and I'll be very honest with you, I think that, and you can speak to this from personal experience, but I do think that you're going to see less and less 19 and 21-year-olds getting married, and you're going to see more closer to 30-year-olds getting married.
Absolutely.
I do think that folks are getting married later in life for whatever reason.
Right.
It was very commonplace 20 years ago to get married right out of college or right out of high school or whatever. But, it is changing. So I agree with you. Maybe that is part of it. Folks are realizing, hey, maybe I should wait till I get a little more established and have $182 in my account instead of 82.
Yes. I mean, and we thought we were good. We're like, $82. That's so much Taco Bell. We can eat for weeks on this. So here we are, these two children.
Yes.
Getting married.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because when you're that young, in theory, yes, you're thinking about kids and all of these things. But when I was walking down that aisle, I was not thinking he is going to be such a great dad. He's going to be so good at balancing a checkbook and filing our taxes. I'm thinking, look at that ass. That's what I'm thinking walking down the aisle. His hair, Hubba has the hair. He's got great hair. He's got great hair. He has a great ass. And that's all I'm thinking about walking down the aisle because I'm 22 years old.
Wow. That's crazy.
So that's what it's like when you get married young.
Yeah.
And I'll let you kind of touch on getting married later in life.
Well, the benefit of getting married at that age is that then you guys getting married young.
Okay.
The advantage of that is like you really don't have any preconceived notions of like because you guys really hadn't lived by yourselves, independently, like for any significant amount of time. So you kind of, got that routine. The benefit of getting married later in life is you're a little bit more established. You probably have some more resources and those type of things, a little bit better settled in your career, maybe finished with education, all that stuff. But the problem is you end up trying to merge two very independent lifestyles into one lifestyle. And I mean, from the standpoint of how this person likes to have the house and how this person likes to have, deal with the finances or whatever. And it can be a bit of an explosion if you're not careful.
Sure. So there's pros and cons to both.
Absolutely.
My kind of touching more on getting married young versus getting married a little bit older is my best friend Casey has this saying, and she will say it does not apply to everyone, but the age you meet your spouse freezes the maturity of your relationship. You kind of operate in this bubble of whatever age that you met. And I can really see that at times in my own relationship.
Really?
Yes. And I feel like there have been other people who I won't name any names, but I also feel like they operate at the age of which they met and started their committed relationship.
Gotcha.
And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
And I'll use myself for this example myself and Hubba is sometimes when Hubba is on a golf course for a little too long with a little bit too much of the rowdy crowd and has a little bit too much of the brewskis, I think that he forgets that he is now a grown adult with a child who almost has a medical degree. In the same breath, I think that there will be times that I will be feeling overly dramatic, overly sensitive, and I revert back to a way that I would have reacted when we first got together.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point. And what's really funny about that is I think that it doesn't just apply to your marriage. I think it also, just touching on in-laws back for a second. So the Bananas brother-in-law, my brother-in-law, the Bananas sister's husband, they got together when they were 17. Well, he and I are the same age, but her parents still view him as a 17-year-old. Like that's where they have him frozen in time. So I completely agree with Casey that I think for sure that's how the mind works, that you meet and you kind of, behave in that realm. So another example, not to pick on you, Tara, but I referenced earlier, your cougar status being a little older than Hubba. Have you recently and in just the last few years ever encountered a cougar trying to step in on your a fellow cougar trying to step in on your territory?
My young cub of a husband. And, I think this goes back to what Casey was saying about how you get stuck into this mindset of whatever age you met and reacting in ways that are not, equal to or equal in maturity to your actual age. But not long ago,
okay,
Hubba and I were in a bar,
okay,
with some friends. And there was one of my fellow cougars was on the prowl in this bar. And now much like me.
Now you're with a group that y'all are all similar age.
We're all similar age. Hub and I are probably the oldest.
Okay,
these were probably early 20s.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're all sitting at a table. Hubba's at the bar ordering a drink. And so one of my fellow cougars out on the prowl, thinking along the same lines that I was thinking on my wedding day, look at that ass, starts.
Your mother's going to love this.
Oh, love it. Starts making her way over to Hubba and, a few casual.
Now, how are you seeing this? Are you on the other side? You're facing.
I'm sitting at a table facing him at the bar.
Okay. So his back is to you, her back is to you.
Yes.
And you're seeing this. Okay.
Yes. I guess the wedding ring on his finger was not a dead giveaway that there was another woman involved, but whatever. So she goes over and, a few playful touches and I'll be real honest. I wouldn't say I'm overly jealous
not at all. Not at all.
Concerned of that in any way.
No.
And I almost think it's funny. Like I'm starting to hit the girls next to me and there's a bunch of couples there and kind of pointing and we're laughing. And so they chat for a minute and then he gets his drinks and he comes and sits down at the table across from me. Well, this woman is not going to be deterred by him.
Now does Hubba have any idea that he's being hit on?
I don't.
Is he? Because I think that men in general I don't think we pick up on that very well when we're being.
This was an actual cougar. This wasn't someone my age. This was a lady older than my mother. Okay. So I think he was just trying to be respectful and polite.
Thought she was being nice.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So she comes over again and is brushing his shoulder, brushing his hair. And by brushing his hair, I mean kind of patting his hair on the sides. And so I'm letting it go. It's still kind of funny. But then she puts her hands through the front of his hair, almost pulling his head back. And so we have some strong.
But he's back at the table.
He's back at the table, sitting across from me. Okay. And I just see red at that point. And I slam my hands on the table, not as the 27, 28-year-old woman that I am at the time, but the 19, 20-year-old girl I was when I first met this man. And I, get this woman's hands and I instruct her to kindly remove her hands off of my husband. Wow. She argues with me a little bit. And then I kindly invite her to shove off. And, that was that, which I would think a 30-year-old woman at that point would be like, excuse me, this is my husband. You're making me uncomfortable. Please don't touch him. That woman was not there in the bar tonight.
Yeah. You were ready.
20-year-old Tara was ready to throw down with this woman,
with this social
filling up my husband in front of me.
Wow. Why don't we shift gears here to some marriage advice, some marriage maintenance advice. I really was not aware until a friend of mine posted on social media that he and his partner were going to a marriage maintenance counselor. And I thought, well, man, that's a great idea.
Sure.
that's a preemptive strike before any miscommunications or issues become bigger than they need to be. And you can kind of, nip it in the bud.
Right.
And, I think that we have this negative like stereotype against like marriage counseling, like
Sure.
that things are in trouble.
Right.
But I think that one of the things that I would encourage folks is to look at like going to counseling regularly. Because I think it's such it can lead, or it can cut off, issues that could potentially become bigger than they need to be. And you guys have had great experience with counseling.
We have. So Hub and I have been married 7.5 years. And when we hit our 7-year mark, a couple people lovingly said, hey, watch out for the 7-year itch, which is, I was unfamiliar with it at the time, but that's a real thing. A heavily researched topic is the 7-year
Yes.
itch.
Yeah. A lot of statistics on that.
And it really just comes down to being bored, complacent, unhappy in your relationship.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that Hubba and I decided to do some marriage counseling was because we were trying to, again, going back to what Casey said, we were trying to use 19 and 20-year-old communication tactics as a 30 and 28, 29-year-old man who now have a child and a whole different basket of stresses. And it just wasn't working. Yeah. There was a disconnect between us. And so we went to counseling pretty consistently for about 8 weeks to really kind of dive in and get things straight. And we learned some great tactics about communicating where we are now in life.
Yes.
And how to implement some tactics that would work as a couple who's been married this amount of time, who now has a young child.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best things that we've ever done.
Yes.
And I think I was embarrassed to ever share about it or talk about it, except for a few people, because I love Hubba so much. And I also know he loves me so much. We are a happy couple. And so to tell people like, oh, we were going to counseling, it was almost embarrassing, or it felt almost like we were failing at this when it was the opposite.
Yeah. In reality, that is the ultimate sign of love, is to take on a step like going to counseling to better communicate and to work on your marriage. The interesting part is it's often been said that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. And so if you're indifferent in your marriage and you just like don't put any effort towards trying to resolve a problem or communicate better or whatever, that's really the opposite of love, is just being indifferent and just saying, whatever,
right.
As opposed to actively doing something. So we're in the same boat you are. We go to counseling probably every other month or every third month, and just as a checkup. And it's been a great exercise for us. And I would encourage folks to look at that and to disassociate the negative connotation with counseling and therapy. So Tara, what other advice do you have on the horizon for those who are engaged or newly married or been married for a while?
I want to kind of touch on that. Just like the wedding, the honeymoon is also going to end.
Sure.
And it's not a reflection on how much you love your spouse. Correct. Or, how much they make your world go round. It's just life. Life is going to come for you. Stress is going to come for you. I think there's a bit of a wedding hangover, especially with as big of a deal as weddings are these days.
Yep.
The same is going to happen with the honeymoon.
Yep.
It's going to come to an end. And that doesn't mean your marriage is in a bad place. It just means that you guys have to find new ways to communicate, new ways to keep it spicy, whether it's date night. I know you and Banana have a very significant date night routine that you guys partake in.
Yes.
And just finding ways to incorporate love into your relationship, however that looks like. And I mean, Matt, what would you say is kind of your top advice for people?
Yeah. So my top advice is pay attention. Like, I think that is one of the issues that we have when we either get into long-term relationship, or we have kids, or we have careers, or we have all of these other distractions or other things going on in life. Like, it's important to pay attention to the spouse, Pay attention to your partner. And whether that means if you realize that date night is important to them and to you, that's yes, every Wednesday night, that's our deal. It's date night, and we do our best to unplug from the career and the kids. We get dressed up. We have the same place we go with the same, waiter and waitress. And generally there's the same people there. And it's our space and our time to kind of, and occasionally we'll, invite other couples to go with us, but generally that's our time. And that's the thing that I feel like sometimes hits the back burner with kids and career, is that we start to run out of time, run out of daylight. And so the thing that gets the least amount of attention is the person who we need to be giving the most amount of attention to.
Absolutely. And for Hubba and I, we are not at the point in our life where we can kind of schedule a weekly date night. We have a young child. We don't really have a lot of help as far as taking care of her or babysitters or whatever. So if you find yourself in a similar situation to Hubba and I, you can't overlook the small things.
Right.
They're so important. For example, I have a protein shake every morning, which is bizarre because I do not work out or lift weights. I don't know why I do this. But every morning I wake up and I make this protein shake because today's going to be the day that I get healthy. I get that bikini body. Today's the day. So I make this protein shake in the blender, and I hate to wash the blender. I hate it. And so I'll fill up the blender with water and I'll put it in the sink, and I'll tell myself, okay, when you get home from work, it's going to be the first thing you do is clean the blender. I never clean the blender. It's always dirty when I go to bed that night.
Newsflash, blender's still in the sink.
Yes. And Hubba has to wake up very early. He has to be at the hospital by 5 a.m. a lot of time.
Yeah.
But in the mornings, I will wake up and that blender will be clean and it'll be sitting on a towel for me, ready to go. And it's such a special way for me to know, hey, girl, I know that I'm not here when you wake up. I know I'm not here a lot when you go to bed, but I'm thinking of you.
Yeah.
And this blender is going to be clean for you. And that small act of cleaning the blender, it starts my morning off well. It makes me feel loved. It makes me feel seen and appreciated. And it buys him a good 30, 45 minutes before I'm bitching at him about something else
before the
that's going wrong in my morning. So, I mean, clean the blender, guys. Clean the blender.
And that just goes to show that is such a simple thing. And the banana has a similar routine. She makes the coffee in the morning. This woman does not drink coffee, but she knows that like that's something that in the morning, like, and so when I get up to get showered, and all that, she'll put the coffee on. But what's so great about that is neither one of those things are hugely elaborate, hugely expensive. They're not ginormous gifts. It costs nothing to pay attention to what your spouse is into. And so, I
love that coffee story. My parents have been married for a while. They're older. And my mom and dad
Strike two with your mother.
I'm so dead after this podcast. But my mom and dad are all the goals. Like to the point where it's sometimes like detrimental to my own relationship because they are so in sync with each other. Yep. And my dad takes my mom a cup of coffee every single morning.
That's so great.
And it's like, it's her favorite thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep. It costs him nothing.
Yeah.
It's such a simple task, and they're very happily married.
Yeah, of course.
And it just goes back to make the coffee, clean the blender, make your person feel seen, make them feel appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It goes a long way.
Okay. So Tara, we've now come to that point in the show for your favorite segment.
I hate that.
Tara, what are you hating this week?
Okay. I'm going to get a little bit deep with this. I'm probably going to offend a person or two, but this is what I'm hating right now. And it's really come to head because Hubba is gone. And I have been struggling a little bit with him being gone. I hate when people tell me, oh, it's all going to be worth it one day.
Mm-hmm. Referring to med school.
Referring to him traveling. Oh, it's all going to be worth it. And just totally discounting the struggle that I'm currently in because of it. I know it's going to pay off one day. I know it's going to be okay. But that doesn't take away from what I'm feeling in this moment.
Right.
So I hate that.
Yeah.
Stop saying that to me.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah, girl, this sucks, because it does.
Yeah.
And that needs to be okay for right now.
Sure.
That it's just going to suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I hate. What about you, Matt Hanley? What are you hating?
Okay, so here's what I hate, and this is going along with our episode today. I hate the parameters and the expectations that social media puts on our relationships, especially, on our marriages.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that people tend to romanticize on social media the quality of their relationship.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people that post these wonderful, long dramatic posts about their significant other. I'm not saying they don't have great relationships, but the more you post on it, the more often you have to tell me, the more I'm going to start doubting really what the level of your relationship looks like.
Raising the eyebrow.
Yeah. I think there was a study done a while back that was like, there was a significant relevance of like the number of selfies you posted to self-esteem or whatever. Well, that's kind of how I feel about the number of, these sappy marriage posts or significant other posts. So like, send them a text message.
Yes.
Like, tell them you love them, leave them a note. But at some point, you don't have to broadcast it every day. And the more you do, the more suspicious I'm becoming.
Yes.
So.
No, I totally agree. I love that. I think that is a great thing to hate. Okay, guys, I think that concludes today's episode on marriage and relationships. We hope that we have given you some good advice or given you a good laugh. But either way, we've had a good time doing it. We're glad you're here and stuck with us to the end.
And just remember, we may sound shallow, but the depth is real.
And don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Deeply Shallow Podcast.
Hey, Tara, we've really enjoyed our podcast experience, but I think we would both agree that creating and launching a podcast is way more than just recording content. We had no idea how much technology could help or hurt a podcast. I mean, we could be spending hours on editing, audio quality, uploading to a hosting service, just to name a few.
Totally agree. We interviewed several companies and couldn't be happier with Riley and his team at Podigy. Their skills, passion, and professionalism have proven to be the best partners for us.
Yeah, that's podigy.co, PODIGY.co. Right now, they're offering 25% off first month services for new podcasters.